shoreline, felt that you couldn't, just didn't give people enough time for the major stuff to do anything in 15 days. And what ended up happening was they were getting more continuances than they would have if they had the initial 30 days. So they had been monitoring their 15-day, initial 15-day period, and people were asking for 4 or 5, sometimes 6 continuances. And they were being granted because they were taking correct, at least limited corrective action. So the compromise is the first 30 days, and for repeat offenders, 15 days. So it's kind of a, yeah.
It is. It's
kind of corrective action, not to exceed.
number 3.
If you make that initial period 15 days, what they found was that they were giving more continuances. It actually prolonged the process rather than giving people 30 days.
Does that matter what the violation is?
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, the violation is, well, it does. I guess it could. I mean, if there's cutting grass versus having to repair a roof or structural. Yeah, I mean, so the answer to that question, yeah, I think it could. I think if you had to change this ordinance and lay all that stuff out, it'd be just.
I mean, here's my opinion, and not to cut anybody else off, but I think the repeat offenders thing is big because we're going after the same people for the same thing at a close amount of time. So that's okay. I mean, and 30 days to, get somebody to fix their roof or their, really blighted properties. I mean, yeah, as long as we have this 15-day repeat offender thing and up the fines a little bit and make it have a little bit more teeth, I'm good with it.
But we're not open the fines on residents, we're only open the fines
Commercial,
on
yeah,
commercials.
yeah.
So why is that?
Well, we've penalty for violation of this article shall be $100 for each day that a violation continues at real property used for residential purposes, and $200 for. I mean, you want to go more than $100 on residents? I mean, that's, there are people that have mental health issues that are struggling with this. So, it's just not always.
I know, but it's not always mental health issues.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Downright laziness and they don't care. So we had originally talked about doing like a scale, like, okay, so if you don't fix it now, then we're going to up the fine. So in this case, you're making the days less, but we're not upping the fine. And we had talked about after 30 days, you're still no compliance, then go up to 150. Still no compliance after 60 days, go up to 200, whatever the case may be. I think that we need to get tougher because things are not happening.
Well, I completely disagree. There are some very big things that we're struggling with that we have to go to court on, and we're going to court on. Most notably the one we all pass when we go home. Seasons. I'm going to address Seasons. That property is owned by Seasons. The only jurisdiction that we have over it right now is to make sure that the perimeter is sound. Our ability, the mayor wanted us to evaluate whether or not we can take the building down, obviously, and lean the property. It's not structurally unsound. Our building inspector looked at it, so we have no jurisdiction. Those are,
It's not a safety thing.
it's not a safety thing, right? We can lifeline them. Ultimately, that building, we're hoping that in the next, 6 to 8 weeks, that building's coming down and that project's going to move forward. But, I think some of the bigger ones that, Chuck is trying to attack are the more difficult ones. You have banks that, courts that give banks continuances on Main Street. And, you can continue to find them, and you do. But Chuck's working his tail off on this stuff. And, I respectfully disagree that, there's not a lot attempting to be done. The bigger ones are.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. I said there's nothing happening. That doesn't mean, so
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Chuck's not doing his job. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is we're not tough enough to make the people do what they're supposed to do.
Well, you can't, there's times where, Charlie goes up on commercial property, we cut them, we leave. So there's that stuff going on, where we can. I know there was an adjacent building, home by Seasons, we boarded it up. Will went in it, evaluated whether it should be taken down, it wasn't structurally unsound, we secured it. We leaned the property. Now, when that project happens, all that stuff's coming down. And we've been assured that, that is, there's been some delays, obviously. But we've been assured that, but that's a big one, right? So that's the one that, I guess apparently people are fired, I try to stay away from Facebook stuff, but, apparently we have engineers on Facebook now, so, they are, they're,
That's not the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about. There's two that I get calls on all the
Yeah.
time, and emails, and call me, and, all these complaints. There's that one, but then there's another one.
well, the affidavits have been signed for the continuation of legal action on the one that we see on Short Beach. And I have to tell you, as frustrating as it is to see these things, and I drive by it too, judges are incredibly reluctant in the state, which is ridiculous, to pull the trigger on the things that we're asking for. Injunctive relief, the ability to go onto the property, make repairs, lean the property. It's not as easy as sometimes it appears for on a day-to-day basis. I mean, obviously, if you all want these fines higher, we react to, what you tell us to do. I just, from an administrative standpoint and a daily operational standpoint, we need something that's workable.
It's part of the problem.
that-
We don't have enough staff to handle it.
Listen, I think that what we found what everyone's found, I know, because I meet with these people on a fairly regular basis, and even if it's, a social lunch, is that everybody is finding that blight has increased a tremendous amount.
And it's this time of year
Yeah,
too. I mean,
yeah.
it's springtime, so all this, we're gonna start getting more blight complaints.
Whether it's financial burden, whatever, everybody is struggling with it, a great deal. And
Well,
you-
the question too, if they're not paying the lower fees, what makes them think they're
Yeah, I mean,
paying the higher
so-
fees?
so
We're
what-
gonna end up owning the house.
Well, what happens is, I don't know if you remember, you certainly will remember it, the one down, there was that strange looking building on, down by the beach that was,
Oh, yeah.
many, many years
Oh,
unfinished.
okay.
Finally, Jennifer and I actually walked it, we worked through some ZBA issues, this is a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was Chris Soto was still
Right,
on there.
right. There were actual blight liens on that property from when my father was there. So they're kind of like annuities, right? They sit there, and somebody refinances, or if somebody sells, then you get paid. So, it just accrues, right? And if people can't pay the lower one, you're right, Mayor, I mean, they're not gonna be able to pay the. But I will say this, when we are going on to properties, most notably commercial properties, we do lean the properties for the work.
And so is that happening on the one that I'm referring to? Because I heard differently today. So
That I
hearing
don't,
from you.
that I don't know. I mean, I'm not involved on the day-to-day basis. If you say to me, Mike, find out about this, I will. I'm not involved on the day-to-day basis on what they're doing. Once we start legal action, Jennifer and I are, hand in glove on where we're going. And I have been pushing the one that, we go by. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, no.
What we talked about today.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Is that the one they're claiming, sovereign?
Just tell them it's not. No, it's near there though.
Okay. I'll follow up on it.
Any other comments?
Well, how does it work the same with commercial?
Pardon?
Does it work the same with commercial buildings?
With respect,
Like with
Leaning and
oh, yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you a question. Like, in a commercial situation, right, does the landowner,
Landlord's responsible.
landlord's not, yeah, okay. Not necessarily the tenant.
No, the tenant could be making a mess, but.
Yeah, ultimately, okay.
It goes to the real property.
Yeah, because somebody said, well, that doesn't sound very business friendly, but it's the landlord that's
Yeah.
responsible, not the
But if you go by Main Street, some of them are, they're like nasty. The parking lots are always nasty, it's overflowing.
And I think, we obviously, with Rite Aid,
Yeah.
packing it in, those are things that,
CVS.
CVS is, we've been talking to
And
CVS.
Walgreens is gonna start getting like that too?
Yeah. We do have some nibbles on some of these properties sold through those.
move over the wall. Good.
Okay.
But yeah, you do mean the real property.
questions, concerns, any changes that we'd like to make? No? All right, that ends the council comment. Is there any public comment? Public hearing number one?
Joe.
Where? Oh, Donna. Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Can I stay here?
Yeah, stay there.
I just want to know, is the fine money, is that going to a special fund, or when you get the money for the fine, where's that money going?
There's a line item in the budget so that we know what actions, we and, you know,
I can't hear you.
there's a line item in finance that it goes to. We implemented that probably 4 years ago, because this money was just going into the general fund. We wanted to know how much we collected in a particular calendar year. So yes, it's identified. There's a particular line item account for likely that it goes into.
Because I thought you could use that money to fix the cracks in the streets.
Well, I mean, there's gonna be a paving process. I know Main Street, the whole Main Street's being paved soon, so hopefully that'll satisfy.
That's what we have.
Any other public comment? Go ahead. State your name and address for the
Chris
record.
Bordeaux, 17 Montauk Street.
The infamous Chris Evans.
So just with the 15 days and 30 days, I understand all that. Now, if the person is making the efforts and working on it and they can show that, we're not gonna be finding them at that 30-day mark, correct? If they're making progress towards it.
That's the difficulty with blight enforcement and certainly legal action is they get to a point where they just get over the hump and then you pull back on the enforcement.
They pull back.
And then they do too. So, you know, it tends to be this
Yeah.
roller coaster ride.
But they could also petition at ZBA.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
there's,
So just like,
There's a
I'm,
right appeals.
yeah.
I'll use an example, I'm helping someone right
No
now.
one's ever,
I'm helping someone right now that has a blight yard because they had trees that came down, and I'm going there and helping them because they're 72 years old,
Right.
and they can't hire anyone.
Sounds like you should be put in for the mayor's merit award. They're looking for applicants.
We have more of that than you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the big ones are
Yeah.
the big ones, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, yeah, these are smaller ones, I'm
Right.
just saying, because again, you don't want to really find a 72-year-old,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
it's taking them longer to get the tree cleared out of the yard.
And I think, you know, Chuck does a good job of trying to balance, you know, what's realistic versus what needs to be penal.
Any other public comment? Okay. And I call the hearing committee to order and approve the affirmation public hearing amended ordinance moved to the regular meeting. Have a, all in favor? Aye. You need a roll call for the hearing committee? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hearing, any opposed? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. Okay. We're gonna go right into the regular agenda. I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 7:22. May I have a roll call, please?
Ashley Lesko, Mariano Santiago,
Here.
Pam Pennington. Here. Joseph Deco,
Here.
Karen Martin. Here. Joseph Santino. Mary Ann Caesar. Here. Lou Caselli, Paul Thompson, Michael Janetti,
Here.
Tina Headley, Sue Stacy. Here. Albert Milano, Guy Belmonte,
Here.
Joseph Kikisik.
Here.
9 present, you have a quorum.
Thank you. May I ask everyone to please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the meeting, there is something that we're gonna add to the agenda. We have to procedurally, like we do when we add something, we have to take a vote to add it, and then we'll take action on it. So I just wanna get it out of the way. If we could add, I sent everyone out an email today about the Board of Finance, the item number 8 from their last meeting, which was May 21st, which is referral to the town council. You wanna read it?
the one you sent,
Yes, that's here, right here, number 8.
my printer's not working.
That's okay.
Rank refer to town council to 1004566255201, electricity, $33,000, from 1005088556689 contingency, $33,000.
Yeah.
Rich?
No, you don't have to read the comments, just just that next line there. Sorry.
That's it.
Yep, that's fine. Okay, so it's just a transfer
Yeah.
to cover some electricity that was used from contingency. So may I have a motion to add it as item 8.1?
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing, any opposed? Hearing none, any abstentions? Okay, so that's item 8.1. Approval of minutes, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, any abstentions? Hearing none. Item 2, correspondence. Okay, subcommittee reports, education, library, school building.
Well, I believe that the library is still closed.
Good.
We've been getting emails, updates on Facebook.
Microphone.
We've been getting emails.
It's off, you have to hit the button.
I am loud. Emails and updates. They've been doing a good job. I don't think there's anything news, maybe, that you've heard of?
I can address it, we're continuing to adjust it with Chubb Insurance. I know the employees are back, right, I mean, we're coming back soon.
I'm not sure what the building, but
Yeah,
they've been working all along.
I have to tell you, obviously, you know, Sarah's outstanding, and Amy does a tremendous job with that board. They are really, I don't think the community will suffer, so they're gonna do pop-up, remote, whatever other politically correct thing they can do to bring books to kids throughout the summer. I do think, unfortunately, it's probably gonna be a prolonged repair. How long, we don't know yet. But what we're doing is we're doing air tests every 2 weeks, just to make sure that the employees are gonna go back to the building and be working out here. So we're doing air tests. There's no air issues, but we just wanna make people feel comfortable. And, you know, that's what we're gonna do. They're doing a great job staying with the community, even though it can't be in that building right now. And just so you know, that, the damage was not caused by anything that our crews did, or it's a vendor that we used did something, so the entire claim is gonna be subrogation against the responsible party, so it won't hurt us from an insurability standpoint, because it has the potential to be a fairly significant claim.
Okay,
Very nice.
public health, safety, and welfare,
No, I'm sorry, I don't have anything this time.
finance, I think we know what's going on over there. Public services, park and rec. What?
Oh, she does.
I do have something actually,
Okay.
about the Forbes Avenue, the police commission meeting. the other
Okay,
night.
let's hear about it.
At the police commission meeting the other night, we talked about, the plan to try to make the Forbes Avenue, Kimberly Avenue, Salt and Stall intersection, a little safer. And apparently what it came down to was, we're going to be putting up a video camera at the intersection to monitor, the traffic flow. And then when they do that, after they get approval from the state, they'll do that for 1 week, and then they plan to close Kimberly Avenue from Forbes Place towards, TJ Maxx. And that will be closed and so anybody coming off Salt and Stall will not be able to make that right-hand turn. And that road will be closed altogether. Then I guess they intend to monitor that situation and see if that does the trick or at least helps. And I
When
don't
is
know.
that gonna happen, any idea?
Well, the state has to approve it first.
So, the town, the mayor, the chiefs said we need to do something because the state was not acting. So we hired BN Engineering and traffic consultants to evaluate the intersection. We had evaluated the intersection a great deal as part of our Tweed evaluation. We felt that was the experts felt that was gonna be one of the hot spots, should Tweed ever happen. So that was one of the intersections that we evaluated. So, we hired BNN to simply come up with what the best solution is that we can control. Because we do not control from Route 1 to the first stop sign. We do not control any of the, that High Street, the left, if you're coming off the highway to the left, High Street.
No, that's still
Kimberly.
Kimberly, all the way to the bridge.
All the way
Okay,
to
no,
the-
Kimberly, we do not control that part of Kimberly either, that's state.
Yep.
So the only thing that we control is from the stop sign and the other, the east side of of Kimberly Avenue. So VN did traffic studies, they evaluated the crashes over a period of time, they evaluated almost 125 crashes, 110 crashes. And what they found was that the hot point, for lack of a better term, where the cars coming out of and the confusion at that. So they thought, at least for a temporary evaluation, that the best thing to do would be to barrier that. And I know that our team, I know Charlie felt that way, so did Jonathan. And that the data confirmed that that was the one thing that would help. They're also putting speed bumps on,
Yes, of course.
speed bumps are gonna be on Forbes Avenue. I think the evaluation of
Forbes Place.
I'm sorry, Forbes Avenue, Forbes Place. They're gonna, they're making the determination whether they can do 2 or 3. It looks like they're gonna have to do 3, because you can only you can't put the speed bumps apart and too close to stop signs. So that's gonna happen. So a 3 to 6 month period of the closure, evaluation, like Karen said, video, traffic
I think the
counts.
poles are already up. I drove through there today.
And
I
maybe
saw,
they were
like,
jumping on it
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
they said they were already up
I was
there.
like, oh, what's that?
Yeah, they were jumping on it pretty quickly, so.
Good.
I would say that there was a great, there was certainly a majority of people who were pleased
Yes.
that something, there was one individual who was not, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and Karen made a very good point, because what we're doing is so close to a state road, we're impacting a state road, it has to go to the Office of the State Traffic Authority, OSTA, for at least a review and, ratification to some degree.
It was a great
Yeah,
presentation.
good job.
That's good. All right, urban renewal housing. I don't think there's anything going on there, and I think we talked enough about Blake. Item number 4.
To consider and act upon setting a public hearing date of July 1st, 2025, to amend Chapter 16 of the East Haven Code of Ordinances with regard to itinerant vendors.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Mary Ann,
Second.
Karen. Any questions? We're just setting a public hearing. We'll hear all about this, I'm sure, soon. We're, in regards to, yeah, Mike, do you want to just talk about what that is?
Yeah, so we're going to try and limit where vendors can be, food trucks and what times of year. We have them showing up in locations that are not quite favorable for certain neighborhoods, and certain locations. So we're going to try and limit the best we can what types of vendors, where they can be, when they can be, how long they can be there, that kind of thing. So.
We get permits.
They get permits from the police department, we're gonna restructure that as well. We wanna make sure that the ordinance is consistent with the permitting process. There's been a little bit of a disconnect on, what standard you have to meet to get the permit, so we kinda wanna tighten that up, so.
So again, just setting a public hearing. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Item number 5.
To consider and act upon authorizing Mayor Joseph A. Carfora or his designee enter into an agreement between the Town of East Haven and Generators on Demand LLC for generator service at the East Haven Police Department located at 471 North High Street.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Okay.
Yeah, I can address this. This is obviously a generator necessary at the police department. The other one is, for lack of a better term, almost timed out, so it's important. This went out to bid. So, this company was the most qualified bidder, and obviously the lowest bidder to a degree. It was close, but this is the group that the police department was hoping got it anyway. So, all we're asking is that you allow the mayor to sign the contract so that we can get that process started. But it did go out to bid.
Any discussion? Council? Nothing? Public comment? Please. Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. Item 6.
To consider and act upon the approval of the suspense list for fiscal 2024-25. The suspense list was approved by the Board of Finance at the May 21st, 2025 meeting and referred to the council for final approval.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
How are you gonna do it?
Aye.
I know, and you know what, meeting worked really hard on suspense, so I hope to make her proud.
Just turn your mic on, Shane.
Oh.
Just hit the face.
Push it till the red light comes on.
The face looking
Little
thing.
things on it.
There you go.
Oh, okay, perfect.
There it is.
You hear me?
Yep.
Good? Okay. Should I sing a little?
Sure, if you want to, yeah.
So what we kind of did was, in my breakdown, I have it broken down by types, so I could kind of go over each of those and the type that we're trying to suspend, and then the dollar amount for that. The total amount that we're looking to put into suspense is $397,376.70. And I'm sure most of you remember this from prior suspense, but suspending an account does not mean that we no longer attempt to collect on the account. It really is just more to get an accurate reflection for us on our collection rate. So what it's saying is like, you know, this business, we haven't been able to collect on it for 4 or 5 years. We're getting the mail returned back as undeliverable. We want to just suspend it, which kind of takes that dollar amount out of our grand list total collection. We're still going to try to collect. We will still accept payment. We still want payment. But it just kind of keeps it clean for us when we're calculating our collection rate.
Some of you remember that that number was much larger when we first took over. And
Yeah.
the tax office, specifically Shana and Megan, have done a great job of bringing that number down, which sounds kind of weird because you're bringing that number down because you're collecting on it, but you're also making the attempt to reach these people. And I remember, not to go off on a tangent, but I remember, and Mayor, you remember when you were on the council, we had the last administration did nothing, virtually nothing to collect on this list. And, you know, I remember Nick Palladino at the time saying, there's a business that's on Main Street next to the town hall that's on the suspense list. How is this happening? And they're still operating, and, you know, like, and Joe Santino did the same thing, and it just wasn't happening. So I commend you guys for doing a good job to bring that number down.
Thank you. And we do track our monthly suspense collection. So on a separate report, I look at every month and see how much we collected. It's probably $7,000 or $8,000 a month that we're collecting off of suspense, which is you know, it's good.
That's good.
Yeah. Yes.
So, on collections, you can still take payment, if say it went to the sheriff though, but you can still take it and it doesn't go to the
A
sheriff?
lot of these, which I'll talk about, a lot of these have gone to a marshal or an attorney and have been returned because they also are unable to collect. But any accounts that I turn over, whether it's a collection agency, a marshal, or an attorney, if somebody walks in to pay, okay, we're never turning away money. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out a way to take it.
So let me ask you this question, just to go off of what Ann asked. So once you turn it over to a sheriff or whatever, doesn't that entity have to be paid?
I mean, they can only do,
So like if, all right, let's just use me as an example, right? I say, you know, I close my business, you know, whatever the case is. 5 years later, you come looking for me, like, Joe, come on, you still owe, you know, $5,000 from 5 years ago.
yeah.
The sheriff comes to me, and I say, no, I'm not paying it. Then you come to me and say, all right, well, listen, let's just pay it. You know, how, does the sheriff loses out on that?
Yeah, he only makes money if he collects.
Gotcha.
And
Who
he,
pays the sheriff?
the
The
person
taxpayer.
who's paying the taxes,
Yeah.
so it's 15% by statute.
By statute.
Yeah.
There's times when we pull stuff back from zero.
Oh, yeah, they have
Yeah.
60 days. If
Yeah.
I don't see much movement in the 60 days, or if they're just unable to collect, I'm like, you know, I always send a thing, hey, what's going on with this one, what's going on with that one? And the difference really is, I'm authorizing them the same powers that I have, but I don't go to a business or a
not going
house
out,
and go knock
yeah.
on the door
Yeah, yeah.
and ask for the money, whereas if a marshal shows up, it's a little more intimidating, people don't
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
People don't want their neighbors to see that, you know, we don't wanna do it to begin with, but that's why sometimes we'll be able to collect. They're persistent. We do bank executions. It is very timely for us, in our office with 3 people. The marshals can also do that, so that's been successful. They're able to put that work in, and they're professionals at it, so they're able to do those bank. So they're just going and saying, ABC business owes 10 grand, they go to do a bank execution. If there's enough money, the taxes are paid. which
And
is-
they hustle because they're getting a percentage of
Yeah,
what
of
they
course,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, just to kind of go through the first total here, so I mentioned the entire total, but the first number here, $164,163.30. That's the vacant land that we're adding to the suspense list. It's from 2010 to 2021 grand list years. These are, I could probably recite to you the names and addresses because they're stuck in my head because I see them. all the time because they're unpaid vacant lands. A lot of these folks are deceased, don't have anyone that is available to pay the taxes, or wants to pay the taxes, or wants the vacant land. These accounts, sliver properties, we don't want them, and they're just not getting paid, so, and we don't want them.
No, with liability comes with it, right? And you own properties that, there's times where you'd rather have it stay there rather than, for example, the quarry,
Yes.
which we might talk about. But
Yeah, so last year we took the quarry, we added the quarry, which is a huge number.
Right.
This year we only have one grand this year that we're adding for with the quarry, so it's not that big.
Because if we were to take that, foreclose on that property, then we would be responsible. There was a kid a few years ago, I think, that died up there, right? We would be responsible for that, so while you're suffering on one end, you have to kind of balance the.
Yeah, some of them are in areas that really are not buildable. There's really not anything you could do with them. They're near marsh. I don't know what the intention was or why anybody bought them once upon a time, but that's the vacant land that we're adding to suspense. They've been outstanding for multiple years. They're unclaimed, deceased owners, no descendants. We go to probate and try to find out when this person passed away, who was there. We send these letters that say, you've got to pay this, but in reality, there's not really too much that we could do.
One was the Lobster Shack property, remember that, the parking lot?
That was a weird one, yeah.
That was
Yeah.
like, they couldn't find an owner back to like 1920 something, I think it was.
There were two
And-
separate parcels.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a couple on this vacant land list that are, there's no deed to even be found. So it's kind of like, it's been someone's for 65 years, but there's no deed back when the property was taken over. So just some little weird ones with the vacant land. The next one is personal property. These are closed, unable to locate. Total for that is $98,729.86. All attempts to contact business principals have been made, UCC liens have been filed. These are businesses that have either closed or were unable to locate where they've moved to. They've also been turned over to either Marshall or a collection agency, and we've been unable to collect on them. A UCC lien is great, it's a nice tool, we use it. Anybody who owes personal property taxes that are delinquent has a UCC lien filed. The issue is that it doesn't really mean anything until the person tries to do something, usually with a bank. So if ABC company owes us a ton of taxes, they go to take out a loan from the bank, most times the bank will check and see if there's a UCC lien, and then we'll get paid on it. It doesn't happen very often, but we do have that in place. Next is personal property. So these are out-of-state motor vehicles. So these are vehicles that were in East Haven for some reason, whether they were reported by a neighbor or the assessor at the time saw the vehicle, added them to the grand list, and we have been unable to collect on them. They're registered out of state, so we can't even hold them up with the DMV because they're not registered in Connecticut. We have turned all of the ones that we're adding over to either Marshall or TaxServe, and they've been unable to collect. So
How much is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, $13,639.02. Next are deceased motor vehicles, so these are people who have passed away, and we get, records of death, so we have, the death record, and that's why we're able to see if there was a bill. In Connecticut, the Department of Motor Vehicle is not supposed to re-register a car. If someone passes away, they're not supposed to allow it to be registered to someone else. It's not foolproof though, because we have noticed that sometimes people come in and say, I want to register my dad's car, I can't until I pay. But we've noticed other vehicles that have been sold or transferred and have been registered, so it's not foolproof. We search probate court, we try to find any descendants, we do send letters. We let them know why the bills are still due. We also have sent out letters to attorneys' offices that represented the deceased. We've gotten some payment, it's just not 100%. The deceased total is $26,529.39. So that's deceased. Next is motor vehicle. These are bad addresses or out-of-state motor vehicles. Total for that, this is one of the bigger ones, $92,756.29. These are motor vehicle accounts that have come back to us as bad address, our United States Postal Service notification that the owners moved out of state. All accounts do have a hold on them in Connecticut, but we do not have, other states will not hold up a registration if they owe in Connecticut. So the only time usually we'll reclaim that money is if someone moves back to Connecticut, they go to register their car, and they've got these really old taxes that they have to pay. And it happens. We just had someone, 2009, 10, 11 grand list, $3,000 owed from that long ago, moved back to Connecticut, wanted to know what they could do, and the only answer is they have to pay their taxes. That's it. And then they get
Pay
cleared.
up.
They're collectible for 15 years, so, but these are ones that we've kind of beaten to find an address and get payment and haven't been able to. Last but not least, we're adding, there's someone who committed a crime in town. He's in prison for 25 years for manslaughter, so we've added the 3 motor vehicle accounts that he has to suspense, and that's $1,558.84. So each of those totals that we talked about gets us to that $397, $376.70.
Okay. Any questions, comments? From the council? Great job.
Yeah.
Tell Megan we said great job.
Yeah,
Any questions from the public, comment?
Thanks, Shana.
And I do have, I did not send it, it's a large file, but every account that we're suspending, I have it on a list. So if anybody wants it, I'm happy to email it to you so you can take a look at it.
Okay.
Amazing job, thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. Thank you, Shana.
Thank you.
Item number 7.
To consider and act upon a presentation and possible action authorizing Mayor Joseph A. Carfora or his designee to enter into a trash consortium contract with the Greater Bridgeport Regional Solid Waste Interlocal Committee.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Mary Ann, second.
Second.
Guy. Mayor Carfara and Charlie.
Hey guys, good evening.
How you feeling there, Mayor?
Huh?
How you feeling there?
I'm feeling okay. So with all of you working with the budget with me, you know, one of the 3 highest expenses our town has is our salaries, our medical insurance, and our trash. I belong to, I'm the secretary of the Greater Bridgeport Regional Solid Waste Interlocal Committee. And I was looking at options, and we just recently, with your approvals, you know, we signed a brand new trash contract, you know, for everything, you know, for pickup, for disposal. But, so we're here tonight because I would like for the town of East Haven to join this Greater Bridgeport interlocal. So I'm going to give it to you all, you know, in a nutshell. Our town gets rid of 12,000 tons of MSW, which stands for municipal solid waste. And for some reason beyond my control, it was way before my administration. You know, we were the only municipality in the whole state of Connecticut of 169 municipalities, you know, that picked up every week we picked up bulk waste. And so right now, the incinerator that we're delivering it to is absolutely refusing it, you know, as of July 1st, we have to change. So right now, you know, there's gonna be a really, really big savings there because our 12,000 tons of annual waste is gonna drop down because, you know, with Charlie and my calculations, we're probably paying, you know, anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 tons extra per year with bulk waste. So our trash, you know, tonnage should go down to between 8,000 and 9,000 tons. So right now, we're paying $115 per tipping fee, and that's per ton. So you multiply the 12,000 tons by $115 per ton. With us joining this interlocal committee, it's gonna drop our tonnage down to $85.25 per tipping fee.
85 what?
85.25. And from what I'm told with all these meetings that I go to, with the town of East Haven joining this consortium, there's a very good possibility that it's gonna drop down even lower to that, to $84.25.
Mayor, who's in that group?
Fairfield's in it, Bridgeport's in it, West Haven, Milford, Westport. There's like 14 municipalities that are all in this. So with us joining this, it's gonna be a significant savings. I'm figuring, and don't hold me to it because our trash can go up or it can go down. But we're looking at anywhere between $500,000 to $600,000 a year in savings. So now the only downside of this is there's not going to be a weekly bulk pickup no more. We cannot do it anyways because we're being told that if any trucks show up at the incinerator, they're going to be turned away. So without cheating the residents out of getting rid of their bulk pickup, all of us are my age. Back in the day, well, except for you, Joe.
Thank you.
So, back in the day, there was a couple weeks during the months of spring, and there was a couple months, during fall where we had bulk pickup. And, our public works picked it up and brought it to our landfill, and then we can grind it up and we can get rid of it. And, by us joining this consortium, it definitely, outweighs the other alternative, which in fact, the other alternative is out of the question because we can't do it no more anyways. So our backs are up against the wall, and it's a godsend because you guys know, during budget season, we're always looking to pinch numbers and save money. So this is a significant amount of money that we're gonna save. It's just that we gotta start training the public again that, like in springtime, they're gonna have their bulk pickup, and also, during the fall months, they're gonna have their bulk pickup. So we're not taking it away from the public. We just can't do it on a weekly basis anymore. Charlie, is there anything you got?
Like I say, we can't have a split load going into Wheeler Greater in Bridgeport. They will not accept it. And like the mayor said, we're the only town in the state of Connecticut that picks up trash and bulk in the same truck. So, it's just, it's something we have to do. And I go to a lot of these, with Scrog, recycling meetings, and they're getting real touchy on even the recycling end. There's other issues that are gonna come down the pike, whether people like it or not, of how our trash is distributed, picked up and whatever down the road, because there's only a couple of places to bring it to in the state of Connecticut, and the options, there's no options, so like I say, this is.
So we get reports every month by our recycle people. Every month we get a report. And what this town has to learn, and we're gonna do a public service announcement, that, you can only put, in your recycle bins, you can only put your recyclables, and that's it. But there's people putting in diapers. They're putting in medical waste. And these machines up at these recycling places scan everything, and then we get hit with a 15 to 20% penalty.
Because the whole load's contaminated.
Because the load has to be rejected. Wow. So we're paying a lot of money on people not following directions. You got a dirty diaper, stick it in your MSW, which is your, municipal solid waste, your
Not in, and medical waste the same way, medical waste.
Same thing with medical
That's a
waste.
big one. But some of that's radiation stuff, when people, having radiation or whatever.
How many tons does each one of those garbage trucks hold?
Probably 20,
Oh, 20 tons at a time. So if you have a contaminated load, it's 20 tons of garbage.
$5,000. Wow. That's what it
So
is.
that's how much we're getting
Okay,
funded.
5,000.
So we're figuring that if we do this, and our average tonnage per year is 12,000 tons. And that's with bulk pickup. That's with somebody sticking a refrigerator outside, sticking a couch. It's gonna come down to the fact, where we're gonna have appointments, or we're gonna have weeks that we're gonna pick it up. And Public Works can go there, grab it, and bring it to our landfill. So our tonnage is gonna go down drastically. It's gonna go down because him and I figured it out. It's probably gonna go down to maybe 8,000 tons per year, 9,000 tons per year. And this consortium is also looking at other municipalities, and the more municipalities that join this, the price goes down farther. So we're jumping from $110 to $115 per ton, down to $85. So we're saving like $30 a ton, which is a big number. Right off the bat, at 12,000 pounds, I keep saying pounds, at 12,000 tons, it's $360,000 we're gonna be saving. $360,000. But there's more savings in there also, because we're separating everything. And, it's a no-brainer. We decided to go with this route, and when we set out our trash contracts back, last summer, we made all kinds of, what do you call this, like,
But we place restrictions in the bid.
provisions in it
Yeah.
for this because we were waiting for this contract to end so we can jump on board with
Now,
it.
this goes into effect as of July 1st?
July 1st, there's not gonna be.
So I gotta
any-
throw all my bulk out in front of
You
that?
gotta throw it all out, and then this fall we'll have our first bulk pickup.
So let me ask you just a quick question, and I'm sure you guys already thought about this, but it's gonna take a long time to train the town and the public that, hey, you can't have blight. So I would imagine, can't have bulk pickup, which is gonna turn into blighted streets because the garbage company's not gonna pick it up, right? So I'm sure there's provisions that Public Works is gonna pay attention to 147 Salerno Avenue has a couch out front, it's been there for 3 weeks,
It's gonna go back
that's
in
my
the
house,
yard.
by the way.
It's gonna go back in your yard.
Yeah, that's fine. Probably should be in the yard anyway.
That's the other thing, if a person empty out a whole house,
Yeah, that's not accepted anyway, right.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's not, we're not talking spring clean outs. No, so I just want to ensure that we're not gonna have blighted streets, and I know that you guys are already keeping an eye on that. So,
No way we're gonna.
yeah, you're gonna pick them up, you're gonna pick it up anyway.
but again, we're the only town in the state of Philadelphia.
That's absolutely true.
The only town.
And furthermore, there's many towns that don't even provide weekly garbage pickup.
No, you pay your
So,
own.
like the people of this town, my brother lives in Guilford, he has to pay for garbage pickup,
Yeah.
and a lot of money, a lot of
Medicine,
towns,
they have to
yeah.
bring their own trash to it, don't they?
Yeah, or bring your own trash, your trash to the transfer
So
station.
we're gonna have
So we're
public
lucky to
service
have that.
announcers, we'll have Everbridges, I'll do some Everbridges, but the people gotta realize that, it's not us now.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The incinerators are not taking
Yeah.
bulk,
Yeah.
Bulk material anymore.
And since we're
Absolutely.
And I commend you for joining the consortium.
What?
I commend you for joining the consortium. Because you're
So
saving
we're-
$30 a ton, that's crazy.
So we're in this consortium already with our recyclables.
Sure,
and
right,
they've been
right.
begging us to join with their
It
MSW.
only makes sense.
So finally, we just, Charlie and I, we know this business, we have, some sort of a background, in the trucking business and stuff. And, it's a no-brainer. It's just a no-brainer.
Mayor?
for us.
Does it cost anything to join that?
No, no.
And let me just ask one more question, and I know the answer to it, but it's good to talk about it. The trash haulers are not affected by this, right?
No.
Our
No.
trash
Oh,
haulers,
no.
because we're still paying them to haul
They're
our
getting paid
trash.
to pick it up
Right.
and deliver it, correct.
So that's important to know.
But the other side of
Doesn't
the
affect our
coin, too, some of the
contract.
people, they'll put bags out that look like whatever,
Of
and there's
course,
paint
yeah.
cans in them.
Of course,
And that's not acceptable either,
Right.
so we get hammered for that.
right.
What do you do? What do you do when people do that? It goes to,
You have
We-
no
we
way
have
of
no-
knowing.
we have no way to know
I
where
mean,
it's
you have to
from.
you have to go on the word of the guy at the transfer station that the load was contaminated.
Oh, they scan everything,
scan it.
everything's scanned.
No, I'm
Everything's
agreeing with
scanned
you.
when
I'm
they
just
go in,
saying,
so they'll just pull it out and that's it.
But you don't know whose house it came from.
That's
so
what
They
it's
I'm
only
not-
saying.
know, they only
There's
know
no-
that,
you
That's
know,
what I mean.
they only know that it came that, like
From
on
that
Tuesday,
truck,
it came
yeah.
from whatever section of town, but not a
Not
house.
a
Those are
specific
called
house.
hot loads. When a hot load goes into the recycle place, you know, it goes over the conveyor belt and it'll show cans, the cans stay there. You know, the plastic bottles stay there, the milk, the milk bottles, but there's diapers, there's needles,
And medical waste.
there's all kinds of stuff that goes through there.
What
That's
about the
bad.
dumpsters in town? Who is that under?
Us.
That's
So-
us
so-
too?
Well, for municipal buildings.
Municipal dumpsters, like, for instance, condo complexes, right, have either dumpsters or weekly trash pickup. The town buildings have dumpsters, those are all on us.
Right.
But the private dumpsters, like, someone's doing a project at their
Yeah,
house,
no,
those
but
are
are those
private.
get scanned too, Charlie?
Depends on what's in it.
Wherever they bring them, they have to bring them somewhere else.
And that would be the contractor.
That would be the up to a contract, and that has nothing to do with the town.
But the town dumpsters, yes.
Yeah.
Anything that the town.
During our last contract negotiations, we all sat in the same room, Mike, myself, Charlie, and we had provisions in this contract, you can even read it, that, that we are covering our butts on every which way goes. Our butts are covered.
I'll say this, the last, I don't know when the last time this thing went up to bid, Charlie, probably no,
6 years ago.
6 years ago, and the contract was 3 pages.
Yes.
Our contract now is 50-something, so the
Yeah.
detail that we have
A lot
about
more
control,
detail.
yeah, we have control, the hauler had control of where to bring, the waste, and we were subject to that for the first 4 or 5 years of your administration, but now we control where it goes.
So we had Jeff D'Onofrio do our contract, with our input. And, just like Michael said, he asked for our old contract and we handed him 3 pages. And he laughed at us. And then he drew up a contract for us with 50-something pages. So our butts are covered every which way. And, there might be changes, 3 years from now, because I told these guys, somewhere down the line, I would love to look into getting those 95-gallon trash cans, so the contractor can come there, grab it, and dump it. So he saves money too, because there won't be any workman's comp for his drivers or anything like that. So, we're looking into the future, and this is the future. This is the future big time, but we do have to have PSA, announcements, because the people in town have to learn that.
This is a huge learning curve.
It is.
Big
Big time.
It's
And
a
some of
big
these,
learning
and some of
curve.
these regulations are coming down from the state because of the fact of picking up municipal waste and all that. It's getting more technical and, again, there's not a lot of areas to go to, so it's not like, well, if we don't like this guy, we
We
can
just
go to
go
that guy.
somewhere else.
There's nobody around.
That's it.
This is it, so,
These contaminated or so-called hot loads are killing us,
Is there a percentage of the hot load that?
What's that?
we don't
Is there a
know.
percentage that makes it a hot load? I mean, if they find, I'm saying one thing in there, is that the whole load is a hot load
Yeah,
now?
the whole load gets.
Yeah, because
the whole load
That's
gets
it,
ejected.
not like they
No.
give you a little error there.
No.
Mayor, somebody said, this is clearly a no-brainer. I mean, this is a great thing to do, but you talked about the PSA, without the East Haven Courier, how
so
else can we
hard.
get to the residents in time? Because that's really, the only negative on all this is how do we push the communication? What else can we do besides PSAs? Without the East Haven Courier, what else is there what other options do we have to get this out there?
So we're putting something in our tax letters this year. We already wrote it out. It's gonna go out in the tax letter. But as far as the learning curve about the recyclables, we're gonna have to start doing ever bridges and, whatever other kind of PSAs, that we could do, but it has to be done. Every municipality, they wanted me, to start teaching the residents to do composting. Let's face the fact, we're not ready for composting. In 9 out of 10 of the, of the municipal, leaders on SCROG were like totally against it, because they all said the same thing. You're not gonna get people to put food scraps in this pile and something in there and something in there. It's sad, we should think about our future with our kids and our grandkids. It's not gonna happen.
They tried it in West Haven for a while and it was unsuccessful.
Yeah, and it fell right through the
They
crack.
had to stop.
I'm very good friends with Dorinda, and she laughed. When I even brought it up, she said, don't even waste your time. Just don't waste your time.
They wanted us to get involved in that also. We said,
So-
no.
Will the dump hours or anything
Transfer
change?
station.
No,
Whatever it's called.
No, it's not
I've never
gonna change.
been.
no. Friday, excuse me, Friday and Saturdays, no.
What do you do in, winter? It's only 1 day a week.
No, we're gonna have the bulk pickup in the fall, and we're gonna have it in the spring.
Twice a year, it'll be.
Twice a year, like we used to do it back in the day, Jeremy.
New Haven, you need a permit. You have to.
New Haven charges for the pickups also.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to call, you make an appointment, they charge you when they come out. You've already paid for it, they'll come out, pick it up. But we're gonna pick it up and
Only
dispose
for
of it, yeah.
I think in West Haven, I think you do that too.
Yeah, well, they have a bulk pickup, and most of the towns do a bulk
Twice,
pickup.
yeah, twice, 3 times.
So we had shrubbery and we had tree stumps in our landfill, like 2 years ago. And we got authorization from the council that, we had Cherry Hill Construction come in for like 30 or 40,000, and they grinded everything up in a matter of a week.
That was crazy.
What?
That was crazy to watch.
Yeah, it was still a humongous savings from what we're paying now in bulk and in penalties from the recycle people. So, this is worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Now, do you think there'd be an incentive to like advertise like the paint cans and, I know medical waste is super expensive to get rid of.
So we
Yeah,
already
but
have
if you have medical waste, you should have a little container that's at your house.
Yeah, but
that
so
somebody
like to
picks
get
up.
rid of that, right? So like a lot of
Somebody
times.
else picks them up.
Paint cans go down to regional water.
No, like, do we collect them? Like, do we offer us, like, because it doesn't cost anything, right, for regional water to get rid of them? So like,
We pay for that service.
right, so like, do we
Yeah.
have like a dumpster at the dump, transfer station, that people could come and bring that stuff to?
No, because then we can't bring a dumpster down there, they're not gonna take that.
Gotcha.
So you have to, I was just doing, because I have gallons of deck paint that we never used. Still in boxes, so I said.
You
what do
can
we
bring
do?
it to the regional water on a Saturday.
Okay.
Where is that exactly?
Long Wharf.
Yeah, Sergeant Drive there.
That's been, that facility's done, that's been there for years.
Yeah.
So a couple of weeks ago, the police department had, medication drop off,
Yeah.
and that was right there.
Yeah.
We don't know the official.
No, because,
They used to dump it.
yeah.
He used to tell me about the toilet.
Somebody
Yeah.
fish, yeah.
Now they burn it.
People, I don't see why people are throwing dirty diapers in their recycling.
That's just lazy. That's just lazy.
They're lazy.
That's lazy.
Just throw it in your garbage.
Well, they're throwing them on Costa Beach Avenue too after days at the beach, so there's that. All right, any other council comment? Any public comment? All right, hearing none, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mariano Santiago. Pam Pennington.
Yes.
Joseph Greco.
Yes.
Karen Martin.
Yes.
Mary Ann Caesar.
Yes.
Michael Genetti.
Yes.
Sue Stacy.
Yes.
Guy Monte.
Yes.
Joseph Nickasek.
Yes.
All in favor? Motion
Thank you.
carried.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, good job. Item number 8.
To consider an act upon an ordinance entitled, an ordinance related to the blight and structuring the rate for imposing fines.
We have a motion,
So moved.
second?
Second.
Aye. All right, discussion? I'm sure you, Karen, you have something.
Well, I would like to amend this ordinance to, after 30 days, no response, change it to 15 days for thereafter. Going after them every 15 days and increasing it by 100 at that
So,
point.
I'm confused. So, the way it reads, right, is 30 days. Repeat offenders shall be given 15 days to comply.
And then after that, after that 15 days, and there's still no compliance, increase the fines.
Okay? So what?
I don't know, you want to start small, go 50? I
So 150 a day after,
mean, yeah, for that.
after 45 days?
Yeah, and then after 30 more days, another 50.
So I have it. Your feeling is that if someone is 72 years old can't,
If-
I mean, I get the big ones, I
Okay,
guess.
so we do have a blight,
The woman can't come out of her house. We have way more of those. I will do what you want, just I think, so
I'm
you.
just thinking about, there's two right in our vicinity.
Yeah.
And not to mention Rite Aid on Fox Boulevard, all those businesses.
Well, the
that
commercial
are
stuff
up
is
front.
something different. I think that's reasonable to hammer them a little bit more.
I understand that, but is everybody going to be a 72-year-old?
That's right.
I will say this, there's a lot more of those than there are these big ones. I'm not saying
Because at one
72.
point,
Yeah, I mean, that's age discrimination.
I'm
You're
not
getting close
saying
to that
that.
number.
but at
Trust
one
me.
point, Chuck had come to different organizations asking, like, on a Saturday, we have these people that have blight and they can't mow their lawns or trim their bushes. And like that, yes, you don't want to find somebody like that, but just because I'm lazy and I don't want to mow my lawn until you make me, that's
So what
different.
you just kind of outlined is arbitrary and capricious. Who's
Yeah.
going to decide that? Where do you decide?
But
That's why I'm
doesn't
saying
Chuck
we have
do that?
the blight,
I'm not a
appeals
credit card
commission.
ordinance, Kathy. We don't have that.
Maybe,
And I don't
in
think
practical.
that's-
So what you're saying is you want, say what you want again, because I want to make sure I have it, if that's, and then
I
you'll
think
vote
you're
on
right.
it. and then-
After 30 days, then we give them 15 days. At that 15 days, and there's still no compliance, at 45 days, we raise it to 150.
Was that commercial or residential?
Resident.
All right, so, just so I'm clear, after 30 days of no response,
Then we give them another 15, like it says
You-
here.
no. Here it says repeat offenders should be given a 15 days to comply.
Yeah.
So that's not an extension to me.
No,
That's it,
no,
so,
we're still gonna do the 15 days. Still no compliance after 15 days, that 15 days?
so it would be 45 days.
Yes, at 45 days.
But this isn't an extension.
No,
This is repeat offenders. So
Right.
to me, if I don't cut my grass and I get a letter from Chuck and I cut it on day 28, right? And then I wait 20 days to not cut my grass again, that's a repeat offender.
oh, no,
Not-
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking.
Right,
about
that's what I'm trying to say.
Noticed.
Right.
So, when they're noticed at 30 days.
Yeah.
They have no compliance, then we'll give them the 15 more days, and there's still no compliance.
Right, so we have to add a provision for an extension of 15 days in here. Because this is repeat offenders, not extension. Does it make sense what I'm trying to say?
Can we readdress this like at a later date?
We certainly
I mean,
could.
so if this goes the way it is and it's not working out, we can readdress it, right?
We could always
Not in
readdress it.
concrete.
So
This
right
is it.
now, let's just be clear, right? The change that this ordinance, how it reads is, the penalty for violation of this article shall be $100 for each day that a violation continues at real property used for residential purposes, and $200 for each day that a violation continues at real property used for commercial. So, to me, the change is that we're gonna go up from 100 to 200 for commercial properties. That's the change. And it's defined it's separated residential and commercial. So residential is not changing, because that's the current fine is $100 a day, right? So it would just, so right now, we're just changing the commercial aspect of it to 200.
Yep.
Not the 15 days, all that's already existing. The 30-day thing, the 15-day repeat offender is already existing. We're not changing, according to this ordinance, we're not changing that. We're only changing to add the $200 to commercial properties, which I am absolutely in favor of. I think the residential thing needs some work. I think the initial intent of this ordinance, the change of this ordinance was to bring the number of days down from 30 to 15, but as Attorney Leslie just explained that, maybe that's not the best idea, which I understand, and, you know, and I agree. And, we have, let's just talk about a hypothetical situation here. We have a house that's blighted. Well, let's talk about something that we've talked about in public before, Main Street, okay? That house, it's not overnight that house gets like that. So this is a long-term thing. The house on Short Beach Road is a long-term thing, right? So the repeat offender thing doesn't come into play with those big ones. It comes into play with the people that, don't cut their grass, continuously leave garbage on their front lawn. They don't keep up with their property, whatever the case is. But the roofs, the windows, the blighted houses, that stuff, it's gonna take longer than 15 days to get a contractor and start doing work there. But there's gonna be a response to Chuck in the zoning office to say, hey, look, I had somebody come out, somebody's looking at it, well, the clock stops, in Chuck's discretion, I assume, to say, hey, look, yeah, I have a contractor coming out to put a new roof on, or to clean up my yard because it's a mess, there's 400 lawnmowers in the front lawn, these are real scenarios, right? I'm not making it up, and I'm not exaggerating. I think we all know, you could all pick out a house in your district or in your neighborhood that has these issues. So I would suggest, let's pass this ordinance as it's proposed, and then let's talk about the rest of it. Karen's intent, I think, is to put some teeth to the ordinance to enforce them, to get these people to, hey, listen.
We're not playing.
Right. But then we have the ethical aspect of it, is that there's a handicapped person that lives in the house that can't do it, or can't afford it, or, whatever. And there's only so much that the business owners in this town that own landscaping companies that do go out and do it for free, there's only so much that they can do either. And I get it. There's a lot of other issues, and we can't keep going back and forth and say, all right, well, 123 Main Street is this little old lady, she's so cute, she's so friendly, but she just can't get out and well, okay, and then there's, 124 Main Street, who's just a lazy guy that doesn't want to cut his lawn. I don't know. So it's a tough thing. And, without really going okay, if it's grass, if it's an abandoned car, if it's a broken fence, I don't know. I think that they're not gonna pay the fines anyway if we increase it, although it would be good for the town, but it's not gonna change anything, so the town's gonna get what?
You're not gonna pay it.
They're not gonna pay it anyway.
So then the
We're gonna
property
own it,
gets
we're
linked.
gonna own the house.
Yeah, it's property gets linked.
Right.
So what you're saying is that
Right.
if the violation continues beyond 45 days, then it would jump to $150 a day.
I think that's only fair too, to your next door neighbors. I mean, you want your property.
Then be a neighbor and cut the lawn.
And don't you
We
want
could,
and
but-
don't you want them to know that the town cares about the situation, and we're trying to do what we can?
Sure, but how do you put that into an ordinance? How do you tell Chuck, hey, Chuck, use your best discretion, I'm sure we do anyway, but but at the end of the day, if it's in an ordinance, it's in an ordinance, So
But
it's tough, it's a
I'm
tough
sure
thing.
he uses his best
Yeah, of course.
discretion,
Of
and
course.
he knows the situation.
But the bigger issues, somebody needs a roof and you can't afford it, but can't they get those loans through
If they qualify.
the town if
If
they
they
qualify? So
qualify.
I mean,
Yeah,
You know,
which is
there-
also a lien.
yeah,
on the
there's
property, too.
help
And
for that.
that takes time too. So-
Yeah. So,
Well,
I
and then
think
that
this needs some
proves,
work.
if they've applied for a roof, applied for the loan,
Yeah, that
that
would be-
proves that they're trying to
Yeah, of course.
rectify the situation.
listen, even if they have a contractor come out and say, hey, give me a price, or, hey, I'm getting prices, you remember that property on Morgan Avenue? Those few properties on Morgan Avenue, that you know, it was like a constant, oh yeah, I'm getting contractors, oh, I need this, they need 30 more days, and like, you know, it just gets like constant, kicked down the road. So I think this does need some discussion, but I would say, you know, let's get the ball moving on the commercial properties that are blighted in town. Those are big, people see them, they're on the main roads, people see them as they're coming in and driving through town. So and they're commercial. I mean, you know, you could hire a landscaper to come and cut the lawn and clean up the property. I think it's reasonable, you know. So that's my opinion. I do also think that we should come up with something else to make some provisions, you know. What that is, I don't know. I'd love to hear, you know. And I'd love to sit down and work with everybody on that, so.
Maybe we need to form another commission to evaluate these kind of things.
Well, we have the blight subcommittee, so that can task the blight subcommittee to come up with a recommendation. I think that's fair.
And then I have one other question
Sure.
too, I would like to ask about. I think there's a need for a new citation. I think the citations that are going out are inadequate, and I think that I would like for the citations to be rewritten properly, and then I would like for all of us to be able to see them and vote on them to make sure that they're.
I think we'll reevaluate the citations, and, you know, they're consistent with what's going on in other.
There's something wrong with them. I'm not sure what they are, what it is,
Yeah.
but they need to be adjusted.
There's a legal element that has to be consistent with the statute, so that's not a policy.
Okay, well, it's one of the things that's holding up the problems that we're having in this town, is that citations were not correct. And then when they were sent out, they were not done correctly. So that's something that needs to be addressed.
To be honest, that has been addressed. We've had meetings about that, and the mayor could, you know, attest to that.
And then who will be enforcing this new blight ordinance, and when will it be enforced?
Goes into effect, assuming you
So
vote on
the
it,
mayor
passes
signs it.
21 days thereafter, you know, and then it goes into effect.
And then who enforces it?
Same, you know.
Same as it is now.
Chuck?
You know,
The zoning office.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions, concerns? Okay, any public comment, questions or concerns? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mariano Santiago. Joseph Deck, Ann Pennington,
Yes.
Joseph Decker.
Yes.
Karen Martin,
Yes.
Mary Ann Caesar,
Yes.
Michael Janetti,
Yes.
Sue Stacy,
Yes.
Guy Monty,
Yes.
and Joseph Casey.
Yes.
All in favor?
All right. What?
8.1.
8.1, yeah. I'm just trying to get organized here for a second.
Oh, wait, can I just ask a question? When will
Sure.
we readdress this? I mean, when will we bring this up for further
So
discussion?
you're on the blight subcommittee?
No.
You're on the blight
Well,
subcommittee.
yeah. I guess we all are really.
Well, yeah, so what I would task you to do is sit with the blight subcommittee, which is one member of every district, and,
Albert.
yeah, Al, and just start the discussion.
Got it.
Okay. No?
I don't, Roberta, that doesn't have to go to a public hearing.
What is the limit for the transfer for public hearing?
No, 50.
50.
So, but I
Okay,
don't,
perfect.
there's no indication that there's a cumulative,
That I don't.
no, there's not, there's not.
No, okay, so item 8.1.
The rink referral. From account 1004566255201, electricity 33,000, from 1005088556689, contingency fund 33,000.
You want to talk about this? Well, let's get a motion in a second, then we can discuss it.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, it's the electricity transfer from contingency. Mayor, do you want to talk about this? Why is there a transfer from electricity, from contingency to electricity at the rink?
I know why. She's having a lot more activity down there. There's a
Okay.
heck of a lot more going on. And more startup stuff, so.
Was that for the skating rink?
Yeah.
I also think it's important to talk about, to back up.
Why rates went up drastically.
Sure. And so I just want to give a little statement. This is from the minutes of the Board of Finance meeting. It says, Liz Franco Spano stated that we have electricity in our line item in our budget, but we do not pay the utilities, purchasing does. We can't access through the new system to see when the bills are paid. We're working with finance to rectify the system. The usage went up, but also revenue increased. We had revenue in the fall of '23 of $62,500. In the fall of 2024, it was $93,500, an increase of $31,000. Chris brings a lot to the rink. We're working through to get a better system in place for paying the bills with Munis and Finance, and Liz says that next year's budget is correctly budgeted. So, it came to us, all in favor, so I suggest that we do the same. So, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Oh, I should ask for comment, I guess, right? Is there any comments from the council about it?
No.
Questions? Public? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. May I have a motion to adjourn at 8:25? Mary Ann, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, thank you. Careful.